You're sitting there right now, screen glowing, fridge humming, traffic noise in the background, thinking this is normal. Then one day it isn't. The lights die, the hum stops, and your world goes from online to primitive in a heartbeat. Let me ask you something ugly. What if the power doesn't come back, ever? Not in an hour, not tonight, not after some lineman hero montage and a heartfelt press conference. I'm talking permanent grid collapse, the kind that doesn't fit in a news cycle. Forget Hollywood riots on day one. That's fantasy written by people who've never watched a system bleed out. The first law of a real collapse is the illusion of temporary. Most people sit in the dark and wait, like passengers on a plane that's already in pieces. You want insider truth? I've watched humans ride that illusion straight into disaster. They tell themselves they'll fix it, without knowing who they are or what's actually broken. Here's what I know with absolute certainty. Nobody is coming fast enough to save you in a total grid failure. Today, I'm going to give you the unwritten rules, the hidden laws, that actually show up when the grid dies for good. Not the YouTube fantasy version, not the prepper cosplay, the ugly tactical reality. You can keep scrolling, or you can spend the next few minutes upgrading from victim to problem solver. If you want to be part of the tiny percentage that doesn't just panic and pray, hit subscribe and join the minority that plans. Drop a comment with the one thing you'd lose first if the lights went out tonight, and then we'll fix that weakness. You're either learning now, or you're learning the hard way later. Here's the second law. The quiet hours lie. The first night is candles, jokes, neighbors grilling meat before it spoils, a weird little block party vibe. It feels like camping, until the cold reality that nothing is turning back on starts to sink into people's skulls. Let me paint you a picture. Day one, people raid their fridges, cook everything, post no power lol memes, and go to bed expecting tomorrow to be normal. By day three, the food smell is gone, the trash smell is rising, and the jokes have evaporated. The illusion breaks about the same time the last ice melts. While everyone else is wasting their best calories on a blackout barbecue, you're playing a different game. You're preserving, salting, drying, sharing strategically, and keeping your operational security tight. The loudest people on day one become the hungriest targets by day seven. Third law, water becomes the governor of everything. People think electricity is the main character. It's not. It's the pump behind the curtain. And when the pump dies, water stops being invisible and becomes your entire schedule. Modern cities are basically concrete deserts with plumbing illusions. Water towers drain, pressure drops, treatment plants stall, and suddenly every toilet flush is a tactical mistake. When that last gulp from the faucet sputters, your real countdown begins, not when your phone dies. Here's how this works for you. You map water sources now, not later. Roof catchment, nearby streams, retention ponds, hidden industrial taps, everything. Then you quietly build the gear and the habits to filter, boil, and guard that water like it's ammunition, because in a grid-down reality, it basically is. Dark truth? Most survival guides tell you 1 gallon per person per day, like that's reassuring. Run the numbers. That's barely adequate. Doesn't factor heat, stress, or sanitation, and assumes zero waste. Meanwhile, people around you will be dumping contaminated bucket water into storm drains like it's a summer chore. Fourth law, waste becomes a weapon. Not guns, not gangs, at least not first. It's the toilets that don't flush, the diapers that don't get hauled away, the meat that rots in warm refrigerators, quietly turning your neighborhood into a petri dish. Nobody puts that on the movie poster. Here's the physics they don't teach in school. When the grid dies, your whole environment shifts from controlled flow to stagnant mass. Sewage lift stations stop. Ventilation systems falter. Garbage collection disappears. Disease doesn't need intent. It just needs time and warm, wet pockets of neglect. While everyone else is turning hallways and stairwells into biohazards, you're building what I call the clean zone protocol. Separate waste area, lined containers, distance from sleeping and cooking, lime or ash for covering, and a plan for hand washing that doesn't depend on the tap fairy. Glamorous? No. Effective? Absolutely. Law 5. The skill pyramid flips. The grid-up world pays people to shuffle numbers and curate vibes. The grid-down world pays people who can keep hearts beating, water flowing, and food growing. Degrees and job titles become trivia. The market reprices everything overnight. Suddenly, the person who knows how to restart a manual pump, splint a fracture, fix a broken hinge, or bake bread from raw grain has more leverage than an entire marketing department. It's not romantic, it's ruthless mathematics. Utility per calorie decides who matters. Here's where you build your edge. Stack hard skills now while they're still optional. Learn basic medical, grid-free cooking, mechanical repair, water systems, and real security. While everyone else hoards gadgets they don't understand, you become the person who can make broken systems limp along one more day. Sixth law, movement patterns become predictable and dangerous. In the first few days, people stay put, waiting for news that never comes. Then the food dips, the water stops, and humans start moving like clockwork. From homes to stores, from stores to distribution centers, from city centers to perceived safer outskirts. Predictability is a gift to predators. Desperate people don't walk random paths. They follow roads, rivers, rails, and rumors. Gas pumps are dead without electricity, so those vehicles become stranded metal coffins filled with clues and temptations. Every choke point in your area turns into a pressure valve. It either releases people or holds them. Your advantage comes from knowing those patterns before they form. You walk your area now, trace the likely routes, identify choke points, dead ends, alternative paths, and quiet side arteries. When the masses flow like water toward obvious resources, you move like smoke along the edges. Seventh law, information doesn't vanish, it mutates. When the grid falls, the official narrative goes silent, but humans hate silence. They fill it with rumors, guesses, and weaponized stories. Information becomes a fluid currency, traded, hoarded, twisted, and used to push people where someone wants them to go. You'll hear everything. The power's coming back tomorrow. The water's poisoned. The military's setting up food over there. Don't go downtown, it's burning. Some of it will be true. Much of it will be wrong. The dangerous part is, you won't know which is which when it matters. Your move is to build layered verification. Ears on the ground, eyes in the street, redundancy in sources. You compare stories, look for overlap, watch behavior instead of headlines. In a post-grid world, trust is not a feeling, it's a data set. You believe patterns, not promises. Eighth law, authority fractures into franchises. When centralized systems go dark, people don't suddenly become free. They just inherit smaller rulers. Neighborhood strongmen, building managers, improvised security teams, whoever controls the resources controls the rules, and the rules will not be democratic. Some of these micro-authorities will be benevolent, trying to keep things orderly and safe. Others will be opportunists with clipboards and guns, wrapping greed in the language of safety and order. The grid going down doesn't erase power. It just sharpens it. Your best play is to understand the power map around you early. Who controls the building entrance, the parking lot, the water access, the only working generator? Who listens when they speak? You don't have to challenge authority, you just have to navigate it without becoming a pawn. Ninth law, noise attracts need. Generators, loud arguments, bright lights, shouted bravado, all of it is a flare telling the world, resources here. In movies, heroes fire up generators and blast music. In reality, that's a beacon calling every desperate, thirsty, armed stranger within earshot. The desperate don't hunt the quiet. They hunt the obvious. A humming generator or a blazing porch light is like ringing a dinner bell in a starving village. Most people never learn tactical humility because the grid shielded them from consequences. Your edge is low-profile survival, dim, contained light, quiet energy systems like solar before fuel-based noisemakers, restricted cooking smells, darkened windows, and controlled movement. While they advertise their last gas tank to the world, you live like a ghost with a pulse. 10th law. Community is a force multiplier and a threat vector. Every survival fantasy starring a lone wolf dies on contact with the first real multi-day crisis. One person can't stand watch, gather water, cook, repair, and stay sane for weeks. But every extra mouth also adds risk, leaks, and potential betrayal. You need people, but not random people. You want vetted, skill-diverse, psychologically stable allies who understand the deal. Contribution, discretion, and discipline. That kind of community never appears by accident in week 3 of a blackout. It gets built quietly in normal times. If you wait until the lights go out to decide who's in your circle, you're gambling with your life on convenience friendships. While everyone else scrambles to form chaotic, mistrustful clusters, you're moving with a pre-aligned crew that already knows roles, signals, and boundaries. 11th law. Food anxiety hits before actual starvation. The human body can survive surprisingly long on reduced calories, but the human brain freaks out the second the pantry looks thin. People start making dumb, panicked choices long before malnutrition actually shows up. Fear, not hunger, drives the first wave of mistakes. Pop quiz. What do desperate looters see when they look at a stocked pantry in a dark street? They don't see you worked hard for that. They see concentrated survival energy. They won't be impressed by your budget discipline. They'll just decide how many of them are needed to take it. Your move is slow, quiet, disciplined consumption and concealment. False front cabinets, decoy pantries, supplies distributed in multiple hidden spots rather than one obvious treasure chest. While the panicked majority burns through their food like there's a refill button, you treat every calorie like a vote for next month's survival. 12th law. Time horizons, separate survivors from victims. Unprepared people think in hours. Slightly prepared people think in days. Real survivors think in nested timelines. Today, this week, this month, the next season. Each layer has different risks, resources, and decisions. Most guides never go beyond the 3-day storm kit fantasy. In week 1, your priority is stabilizing: water, hygiene, security, immediate meds. In month 1, you shift to sustainability: longer-term food, mental health, energy systems. Beyond that, you're talking seasons, migration, and rebuilding patterns. Each horizon demands a different part of your brain. You gain an advantage by intentionally training your brain to stretch that timeline now. Ask yourself, what's my 72-hour plan? My 30-day plan? My 1-year realistic scenario? It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to exist. Reality will modify it, but you can't modify what you never built. 13th law. Medical capacity collapses faster than you think. No power means failing refrigeration for meds, limited surgical capability, and burned-out staff working by flashlight until supplies and stamina run out. Even minor injuries graduate into life-threatening problems when antibiotics, sterile fields, and advanced care vanish. The grid doesn't have to go down for long before some meds spoil, some machines quit, and some records vanish. Now stack that on top of stressed, dehydrated, exhausted people making riskier choices in a more dangerous environment. The injury rate goes up exactly when the treatment capacity goes down. Your play isn't to become a surgeon, it's to drastically lower your exposure to preventable injuries. Gloves, eye protection, careful tool use, controlled movement in the dark, and actual first aid training. You don't want to be the person bleeding in a world where the nearest doctor is burned out of supplies, or simply gone. 14th law. Security is a system, not a lock. People love to buy big locks and heavy doors and call it a day. In a grid-down scenario, security is layers: visibility, access, sound discipline, escape routes, and the psychology of looking like a bad target. The door is just one node in the network. While everyone else is buying the thickest door they can and bragging about it, you're thinking like an attacker and like a defender. How would someone approach? Where would they hide? What would they hear? What cheap changes force a casual threat to decide, not worth it? That's real defensive thinking. Advantage comes from low-cost changes, shifting furniture to create funnels, using mirrors to extend visibility, setting up passive noise traps like glass on floors near vulnerable entries. None of it makes you invincible. Everything makes you marginally more annoying to attack. In collapse math, annoying target beats easy jackpot every time. 15th law, emotional fragility is a hidden killer. People imagine they'll rise to the occasion, but collapse is a slow grind, not a single heroic moment. Sleep loss, fear, grief, boredom, and uncertainty eat holes in your decision-making until you start sabotaging yourself. No one posts that part on social media. You'll see it. Arguments over nothing, impulsive runs into danger for just one more thing, bargains made from panic instead of strategy. Families fracture, partnerships crack, leaders break. The grid failure exposes every unaddressed psychological fault line. You can't pack mental resilience in a bug-out bag. Your counter is routine and meaning. Daily tasks with purpose, small wins you can see, rituals that say, "We're still us." It sounds soft, but stable minds make rational choices, and rational choices keep you alive. The tough guy who never built emotional discipline is a liability masquerading as strength. 16th law, mobility is both escape and commitment. Bugging out is a religion for some people. They fantasize about heroic hikes into the wilderness. Here's reality. Leaving your base means abandoning heavy resources, exposing yourself to unknown threats, and committing to whatever you find next, good or bad. Staying means confronting whatever comes to your door. Both carry risks. In a total grid collapse, roads become corridors of desperation and opportunity. You'll see convoys, refugees, opportunists, and predators sharing the same pavement. Vehicles without fuel become shelters, obstacles, or lootable caches. Every mile traveled burns calories, water, and safety margin. Just heading out isn't a plan, it's a gamble. Smart survivors build conditions for both options: a defensible home base in the short term and a viable, rehearsed route with pre-planned fallback points if staying becomes suicide. You don't commit to bugging out or bugging in, you commit to adapting with more information than fear. 17th law, energy hierarchy rules your tech. In the grid world, you charge everything mindlessly, and failure just means annoyance. In the collapsed world, every watt you push into silicon means a watt you didn't use for light, heat, or water movement. Tech triage becomes non-negotiable. You start ranking devices by survival value: communications, navigation, lighting, critical tools, then comfort. No more zombie scrolling. Every screen that lights up has a job. If a gadget can't justify its energy cost in calories, security, or coordination, it's dead weight. Your phone stops being a toy and becomes a mission-specific tool. While others hoard dead batteries and useless chargers, you're running a lean, efficient energy network. Solar, maybe some hand crank, maybe microfuel, everything directed ruthlessly. You're not anti-technology, you're anti-waste. That mindset shift is a massive advantage when electrons stop being cheap. 18th law, geography rewrites value. Floors, neighborhoods, and entire towns trade places on the risk-reward chart once the grid drops. High-rise units with great views become vertical traps with dead elevators. Ground floor convenience becomes easy access vulnerability. Suburbs with big yards become both opportunity and exposure. Locations stop being about status and start being about physics. If your water source is 12 floors down, every liter is now a physical ordeal. If your apartment faces a main road, every desperate passerby can see your windows. On the flip side, that weird corner unit with stair access and limited sightlines suddenly looks like a tactical gift. Real estate agents never talk about that. Your move is to reevaluate your current space like a battlefield analyst: lines of approach, concealment, fallback positions, proximity to resources, distance from likely flashpoints. If you can't move, you adapt. If you can move, you choose based on physics, not curb appeal. 19th law, luck still matters. That's the one nobody likes to hear. You can prepare like a maniac, read every guide, train every weekend, and still catch a bad break. Wrong place, wrong timing, wrong neighbor, wrong infection. The grid going down doesn't turn you into a main character, it just changes the dice you're rolling. But here's the uncomfortable counterpoint. Luck favors the prepared because the prepared need less luck. You don't control the storm, but you absolutely control whether you're already standing ankle deep or chest deep when the wave hits. Better odds aren't a guarantee. They're the difference between game over and one more chance. Your mindset has to hold both truths. You are not invincible, and you are not powerless. You're playing a long, ugly game where your decisions compound. Every skill learned, every gallon stored, every conversation had now is a vote for your future survival, not a magic shield. So here's your choice right now while the lights still work. You can treat this like doomer entertainment, close the tab and hope some invisible they keep the world humming for you. Or you can treat it like a briefing and start re-engineering your life for when the humming stops. First, immediate actions. Map your local water sources, build at least a basic filtration kit, and set up a clean zone plan for waste. Then, Audit your skill set and pick one high-value survival skill to start training this week, not someday. Someday is how people die in slow disasters. Next, walk your neighborhood with new eyes and sketch the movement patterns and choke points. Identify where crowds will go, where you can move unseen, and how geography rewrites your risk. Talk quietly with the people you trust about mutual support, not as panic, but as insurance. The time for building alliances is before anyone's hungry. If you're still here at the end of this, you're already different from the ones treating collapse like a meme. Subscribe if you're part of the 0.1% who actually act, not just watch. Then open a new tab, make your first preparation purchase or plan, and start turning theory into reality. Class dismissed. Your move.